Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Collier. I am your host of Conquer with Chris, the podcast you don't want to miss. Today, I have Amanda Johnson on. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation.
I'm excited to have you. So, tell the people about who you are and kind of what you do.
Sure. So I call myself the Story Oracle. It was a name kind of gifted to me by my clients who I've been working with over the last 20 years. And basically, my whole career has been about helping people to get their stories onto pages and stages and to face the stories that are keeping them from doing that. So at Saved by Story, we are helping people from inspiration to impact, from the seed of an idea. I want to write a book. I want to be a speaker. I don't know what to say. I have ideas. I have expertise, but how do I communicate it articulately and powerfully? And then we walk alongside them through the whole process, all the way to publishing the book and launching it, and how do we market it, and how do I grow a business around it? So it's kind of a one-stop shop.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's a well-needed thing in this day and time. I know a lot of people who either want to be published or have been published. So let's go back to, since you're the Story Oracle, let's go back to the origin of the Oracle, right? Let's find the origin of the Oracle.
Yeah.
So how'd you get to this place?
Well, I often try to explain that my career has been a little bit like playing pinball. The pinball machine where the metal ball is being bounced all over the place. That was about the first 5 years of my career, where I really thought I wanted to be a journalist. I was going to write for a Christian magazine coming out of high school, got into college, got into a classic books program, and realized that I really wish that my high school teachers had taught me how to critically think, how to look at stories and, the classics through the lens of history. So I thought, I'll become a history teacher and I'll get to these kids before they're out there by themselves having this crisis like I was having. So I became a teacher, studied all of the child development and psychology to do that, got into the school system and realized that wasn't the right place for me. I wasn't emotionally healthy enough to be there, to give them my all. I was in a really tough community, lots of poverty, lots of gang violence. Most of the kids in my class just did not believe that they were going to survive high school. So how do you talk to kids about meaning and vision and next steps, right? And so I left the education system, sadly, and had the opportunity to work with a family friend who was teaching people how to write well online. So she taught me how to do the writing coaching that I was already doing for all of my friends through high school and college, professionally, while I could stay home with my little boy and work, while he was sleeping and getting all that stuff done. And we got some great results, went out to share the business with others, and we went to the wrong group of people. We actually went, or maybe it was the right group of people in my case. We went to a bunch of female entrepreneurs who said, we don't really want you to teach us how to write well. We would like you to fix what we've written because it's not working. So they had manuscripts and books and blogs and articles and all kinds of things that just weren't getting the job done. So I had this little editing business. And while I was working on the editing business, I had the idea for my own book series. And that was probably really the origin of what I'm doing today, because it was, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, Chris, where you have this idea and it's like, where did that idea come from? I'm not even a person with those types of things in my background. I haven't watched people do this. I haven't had any models. It was just this vision that came to me of a book series, a training company, working alongside a teacher from The Secret. Remember, 2007 was the year the law of attraction took the world by storm. And so I had this idea, I'll just attract a secret from the teacher. A teacher from The Secret. And everyone laughed at me. and except for one person. And she said, I think you can do this. About 3 months later, the teacher from The Secret walked into Sizzler behind me and invited me into a workshop. And it was at that workshop that I realized I had a lot of work to do before I could be in the position that I saw myself becoming without it imploding. I had too much old story, too many limiting beliefs, too many ideas that weren't working for me, and too much, frankly, emotional and physical pain that would have prevented me from doing the work that I wanted to do. So I, I stopped my own book project and I started to do the work. And meanwhile, my editing business is still going. I realized, I really, I really want to help people from the beginning, because too many of the people were telling me that they had worked on a project for 3 years, and then it took them 2 years to get the courage to find an editor and share their work with people. Writing is such a personal experience, and it just feels so scary for people. So they hand it to me and I would say, oh my gosh, this message is fantastic, let's do this. And I'd chop the thing up, reorganize it, hand it back to them, and just watch their faces fall off, because they were, I spent all of that time and it still needs this much work. And so I thought, I'm just going to help people from the beginning. So about 2009, 2010, I started to work with people from the beginning. And that was remarkable, because I realized I wasn't the only one who had big dreams and limiting stories. So my work became about half writing coach, helping people to figure out how to build scenes and connect ideas and do flashbacks and all of that fun stuff. Meanwhile, work through the stories that were coming up for them, because a lot of their stories were filled with a lot of trauma and abuse, and their backstories and their current stories had some going on too. So that's kind of how this got started.
Wow. Wow. So, one of the things as being a podcaster I found is that many times we try to do something, we don't have all the tools, or we're not ready yet for that. It's one of the things I feel like I remember someone telling me that life is the only teacher that gives you the test before they give you the answers. And I think it's true. I think that's true. I also think that you're never ready. Like, it's better to take imperfect action than take perfect action, right? Because you're never going to have it all together. What has been the constant for you in your journey that has helped you transition through all these hurts, damages, and things, and even just the lies you told yourself you couldn't do or whatever? What has been the constant through all that that's helped you get through it?
Such a good question.
Is there a character trait or a lesson learned that has helped you kind of navigate those things?
I actually think that it was about my son, because that moment of really feeling like, ooh, I need to get my life together fast happened when I had him. And I realized that, I'd kind of lost my religious footing and my spiritual connection, and I wasn't sure how to raise a good human without any of that. And I also knew I was in so much emotional and physical pain that I just wanted him to end up better than me. And I think that's really been the driving force for all of the big decisions I've made, even entrepreneurial, being an entrepreneur and taking those big risks. He got to watch me do that. He got to give his advice. He was a little entrepreneur by the time he was 4, asking me questions and wanting to know. And I think it's really been trying to create a better story for him. And my pathway to doing that happened to be professionally, because what it had me do was sit with people in stories and work through their process of processing all of their pain, and notice all of mine that was coming up as I was listening, and then do my own work around it. So it's really been a really, like you said, what's the through line? I think the through line is the motivation was him. And the thing that kept me going was the magic that was happening, how people were dropping into my life with messages and stories that I needed, sometimes before I knew I needed them. From a caregiver's guide to a year or two before my grandma fell ill and we ended up taking care of her. I knew exactly what to do and how to do it. I knew the grief, that process that I had to go through. It was so amazing. But almost every single one of my clients have brought something that's been driving my own personal and professional growth.
Wow. Wow. Well, so it's kind of like the people you were helping you at the same time.
100%. 100%. In fact, in 2019, so right before the pandemic struck us, I had this idea. I had this one client who called me up and said, I can't believe that you didn't tell me that this thing that was in my story is actually happening in my own life. I'm like, I did. For a year and a half, I was trying to show her. She wasn't ready. And so we had a magical experience of watching her completely wake up to something that was going on in her life that was awful, and then completely rewrite her story for herself and her kids. And I thought, when I saw that, this has been happening over and over again. I'm going to ask 20 of my authors to come and write their stories, not about their personal stories, because a lot of them had already done that, but about their story of writing their personal stories and what happened on that journey. What stories did they run into? What limiting beliefs? What relationships struggled, or financial things or physical things came up while they were doing that were part of that journey of healing. And so I invite them all, and then the pandemic hits. And I had this idea that I thought it was important at that point. Because, as a coach, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a trained therapist. But as a coach, I always kind of kept my personal stuff in the background, right? They would bring something up for me. I would go handle it myself and focus on them. I had this idea, what if I told them what they've brought to my life? And so we wrote this book, You Can't Make This Story Up, where they tell their story, and then I tell them why they were in my life, what they were driving personally and professionally for me. So it has been absolutely reciprocal, but I think that's because I let it be. I think a lot of us who work with a lot of helping professionals who help others tend to be focused only on them and don't open up to the possibility that these people are here for us as much as we're here for them, perhaps differently, but nevertheless.
Right. That's amazing. It's amazing because I have a coach I listen to online. I want to say a coach. He's not my coach like I pay him. He's just someone I found on YouTube and the socials. And he said, all work works. It's either working for you or it's working on you. And sometimes you don't know where it's working, right? Whether your business you're working in your business or working on yourself, and it's not making you the money you want to make, but it's working on you. So one day you can handle the money. Because one of the things I just realized is I've been at the podcasting for now 4 years, and online marketing since 2008. One of the things I realized, if I would have had immediate success, it would probably have killed me.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And so, they may see me as an overnight success, but I've been honing my craft for years. And the thing is you don't know what that one person, like you said, one of your clients, one of the people you help write a book, you don't know what they're going to bring. But they're going to bring something, even small, the smallest change. Mm-hmm. In reality, it's the small changes that really make the difference, right? If you're 1 degree off and you walk a mile, you're a mile out of place.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you looking to do moving forward? Continue editing, continue helping people write books. What else do you have on your agenda for 2025? This year's still young,
mm-hmm.
and beyond.
Yeah. At Save by Story, so I took my first business and I folded it into Save by Story. Save by Story started out as just a publishing house, and now it's writing and publishing, inspiration and impact. My son, I think he just got really sick and tired at 19 years old of hearing me complain righteously complain about what was happening to my clients when they moved from the content into the publishing world. They were just being mistreated, ignored, not handled with care, both them and their products and brands. So I would get in there and I'd fix it, and then I'd walk out of my office and be like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, and so one day he said, this is really a shame. Why don't we just create something? And I was like, oh, sure, let's just create a publishing house, Aaron. And he said, I'll figure it out. And he did. And so now we have a bunch of partners and team members who help people through that entire process. And like I said, I folded the writing in. So more of that. We have new programs coming this year for people who aren't quite sure, that they're not ready to jump into like our 12-month program that is a deep dive into working on your story and saving your story and writing your story. But perhaps they just want to know more of what the journey looks like, either in the writing or the publishing. So smaller programs where people can just dip a toe in and see what's possible. And then, when you're talking about the clients coming to me at the right time for the right reason with something, their own elixir for me. About a year and a half ago, I had an experience while I was helping somebody write their book in record time, completely immersed in the story. The character, I knew when I read the outline for this novel that I just bawled my eyes out on an outline, which didn't make any sense. So as I was working on that, I had the opportunity to experience this narrative medicine kind of at its height. When you're talking about those small changes, those happened for 17, 20 years in my business, where it was just these little things I was getting. They didn't feel little at the time all the time, right? But looking back, they were little hiccups, little bumps that I had to kind of smooth out and integrate and figure out what was there for me. But this actually helped me to heal a wound that I've been chipping away at for more than a decade. And when that happened, I thought, here I've raised my son with story. I've used story to help him build character, build resilience, be a good problem solver, be a forward thinker, be a good friend. And so I use story all throughout his childhood to help build all of that in him. And then I've been helping people with all of these stories. And then there's the personal healing that's happened as a result. And I just thought it's time for me to take this out beyond the community and help other people with this idea that story really is a tool that can free us if we know how to use it. If we stop blindly consuming it and start being really mindful about it. What are we attracted to in these stories? Why do we love that character so much? And start using those as opportunities to connect with the people that we love and that we work with. Life can become pretty amazing and magical. So that's the Story Oracle part of my work. And then Saved by Story is where I'm doing all of the writing and publishing with my team.
Gotcha. And where can people find you?
SavedByStory.house is where all of the writing and publishing happens. And then if people are interested in the speaking or asking me to come out and do retreats for their groups that they already have established, that would be through thestoryoracle.com. And that's all hyphenated.
And do you have a favorite quote or line?
I have so many, but I think the one that is probably perfect for this conversation is by Carl Jung, where he said, we don't get wounded alone and we can't heal alone.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. Where can people find you again?
SavedByStory.house is the writing and publishing, and thestoryoracle.com, all hyphenated, is for the speaking and the taking retreats out to other organizations and companies and communities.
Any final words for the audience?
I would say find a partner. If you've got a big dream and you're feeling a little stuck, you said a quote earlier that made me think of what my dad always said: experience is that thing that you get right after you need it. And the only way to make that a little bit softer landing is to look for the people who've already had the experiences and ask them to walk alongside you.
That is wonderful. I would say one of the biggest things is, one of the biggest quotes I remember hearing from when I was early 20s was that the graveyard is the richest place in the world because there's so many unfulfilled dreams and desires that have gone there. But it reminds me of another quote that opportunity usually shows up, looks like work dressed in overalls. And most people don't answer the door when opportunity knocks.
Yeah.
So I just want to encourage the people, find your dream, find your why, find your passion, your purpose, and get it together. And if you need help getting your book or on stage, find Amanda at the links. We'll post them in the description for the podcast. And thank you so much. And you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
And I'll get it. There we go.